Hello, this is John from kevolveprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at getting and setting cookies. Now the way the internet's going, the use of cookies seems to be becoming more restricted as people get more and more suspicious of cookies, and for that reason it's better not to use cookies explicitly unless you really have to. But if, for example, you want to keep the user signed into your site even if they shut down their browser or even shut down their machine and restart it, then you pretty much have to use a cookie. So sometimes you do need them, or at least you'll feel that you need them. So to do that, let's look at how you get and set cookies. And I've got this servlet set up, and I've got this do-get method here. And now, first of all, to set a cookie, let's declare a object of the cookie class. So intuitively enough, there is a class called cookie, and don't forget to add the import, of course. And I'll say cookie equals new cookie, and let's actually call this set cookie. So this is the cookie that I'm going to set. Or maybe that's a stupid name. Actually, I'll just go with plain cookie. That'll do. And now the constructor of the cookie class takes a name and a value. So cookies have a name and they have a value. And for the name here, let's just give it something like password, for example. Or maybe it's better to say user, because it's probably not a great idea to keep a password in a cookie. Better just to store a username or something. You don't really need to store the password, arguably. And I'll set the value of that. Let's just set this to a name. I'll set it to Vicky, which is as good a name as any. And now to set that cookie, because to set a cookie, basically, when you send HTML back to the browser in response to a GET request, or it could be in response to a post, I guess, you send not only the HTML, but there's also a header there. There's what we call a response header, which doesn't visually appear on the browser, but it is there, and it can do various things, including it determines how the content should be displayed, whether it's a text file or HTML or whatever. And it also allows you to tell the browser to set a cookie. So we need to modify the response header, and to do that we can say response using this response object here, response.set, I think it's add cookie, and we just pass it the cookie we want to add. So it's pretty simple, really. Just create your cookie, give it a name and a value, and then use response.addCookie. And now this isn't going to visually do anything because we haven't got a cookie. So what I'll do is I'll write some code up here that gets the available cookies, and then the first time we go to this page we'll see that there are no cookies, but we will actually set a cookie, and the second time we go to it we'll be able to see the cookie that we set. So let's write here actually. In fact, I'll create a print writer here. I'll say print writer out equals response.getWriter, and down here well actually let's then say out.println, and I'll write some HTML. So I'll write an HTML tag here, an opening tag, and at the bottom let's write a closing tag. So although the cookies are going to come out in the header, you don't have to set them before you output the HTML, because this stuff's not going to be output until the server's going to save up the stuff that you write and then send it in the correct order, at least as far as I know. So let's just say here out.println cookie set, and I'll just put a line break tag there, br. Now let's have a look at how you get the available cookies. And there doesn't seem to be there isn't a method for getting a cookie with a particular name. So it seems that you have to write that yourself if you want it. But there is a method that lets you get all the cookies, and then you can look at them one by one. So and that method is, well, first we need an array of cookies. So I need to say cookie array, and this is going to be all the cookies that are set by this site for this browser corresponding to this request. And I'll say cookies equals request. Now it's the request object that we're using here because cookies are going to be set by the browser in the information that it sends back to this that it sends to us when it does a GET request. We need to look at the information the browser is sending us in the request by the GET request. So we're going to say request.get cookies. So the browser is requesting information, which is why this is called request. But it sends some stuff along with that request, including it tells you what cookies it's got. And now let's loop through those cookies. So I'll say for, I'll just use a for each loop here, declare a cookie, and let's call this retrieved cookie in cookies. And now I can get the name from that cookie. I can say string name equals retrieved cookie dot get name, and I can say string value equals retrieved cookie dot get value. Actually, there's a bunch of useful methods there which you can look at your leisure, but we're only going to look at a few of them here. So let's say retrieved cookie dot get value, and let's just output that. So say out.println found cookie. Well, actually, let's just say name and then plus, and then let's have an equal sign there, and I'll output the value like this, and then I will output a line break tag just to make this a bit easier to read. So if it finds any cookies, it's going to loop through them and output the name and the value one by one. And if you're looking for a cookie with a particular name, then you need to loop through and check the name with dot equals or something bit by bit, or you could use the switch statement. Now the thing is, this cookies is going to be null if there aren't any cookies set. So I'm going to say here, if cookies is equal to null, then I'm going to say out.println no cookies found, and then a line break tag like this. But otherwise we can go on and say else, and we can output the name value pairs for the cookies. So now if I run this, the first time I run it, it's going to say no cookies found, but then it's going to set a cookie, and the second time I run it, this is then going to find that cookie that I set last time, and we're going to see the cookie down here, so the second time we run it, we're going to see the cookie here, and it's going to be setting it again, but that's not going to make any difference the second time. So let's just run this and see how it looks. So if you look at it in the internal, I set this cookie previously when I was testing this code, but what I'll do is I'll change this username here. Actually, no, what I'll do is I'll go to Internet Explorer. So we've got a fresh internet session. So I'll say I'll go to Internet Explorer here, and let's just run this again. Actually, I'll just copy this URL if I can. So let's see, that's the URL I want. And now I'm going to go to a fresh browser here where I haven't previously set any cookies, so ignore that output, if you will. And we see that it says no cookies found, and then it sets the cookie. But if I now refresh this page, then we're getting now the cookie that was set there. And of course you could set lots of cookies if you want to. Now if I quit this browser and I start it again, so let's start Internet Explorer again and go back to the URL, it says no cookies found again, And the reason for that is that cookies have a kind of maximum lifespan. It's a maximum lifespan because the user could decide to clear their cookies. But in this case, by default, the maximum lifespan is set to -1, and that means that if the browser is closed, the cookie will not persist. But we can change that. So let's have a look at changing that, and it's pretty simple. If I go to cookie here, and there's a method set max age, and then this takes the number of seconds that I want this cookie to persist for. So in this case, let's just set it to 5 minutes, 300 seconds. And now that cookie will persist. So if I run this now, let's run this. And in fact, what I really need to do is I just want to make sure that I am running my latest copy of this. And sometimes this caches, so I'm just going to go to project clean like this, and now I'm going to run this again. And once it's up and running, I'm going to go back to Internet Explorer to demo this. Let's copy that URL again, and I'll go to IE, and so we've got no cookies found and cookies set. Let's quit that and go to Internet Explorer again and paste it in. And now, so it's set the cookie, and if I refresh it, you can see that cookie, it's set to Vicky. And if I quit Internet Explorer and once more start it again, because I set the max age on that cookie, if I paste in this URL now, we can see that the cookie is still set, so it's still got the value of the cookie. And that's probably all you'll need to know about cookies, although there's more stuff to it. But that's practically all I think I've ever needed to know about them, as far as I can think. Well, yeah, as I say, there's more. I'll leave you to explore that yourself, though, because this is going to answer most cases. And all there is to it really is you just have to remember to get the cookies. You get a cookie array by doing request.getCookies, and the cookie object has a name and a value that you can retrieve with getName and getValue. And to set the cookie, you just create a cookie object, pass a name and a value to the constructor, and do response.addCookie. And finally, to set the age of the cookie, which is the maximum amount of time that it's going to live for, assuming that the user doesn't clear it first. You can set the number of seconds here, and you might want to do something like, you might want to work that out in days by saying, like 5 days would be times 24 to get hours, times 60 to get minutes, and times 60 again to get seconds. So that's it for this tutorial, and pretty simple. Join me again next time, and until next time, happy coding.